Could a political decision thousands of miles away change what's on your dinner plate? Imagine a world where your favorite dishes are no longer available because of international disputes. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario. It's happening right now. Trade wars, especially those initiated during President Trump's tenure, have sent shockwaves through various industries. But how do these global chess moves affect something as specific as goat meat exports? Let's dive deep into this intriguing intersection of politics and agriculture. Trade wars, a term that has dominated headlines and sparked debates across the globe. At the heart of these economic battles are tariffs, taxes imposed on imported goods, aiming to make foreign products less competitive compared to domestic ones. While the intention might be to protect local industries, the ripple effects can be vast and, at times, unexpected. During President Donald Trump's administration, the U.S. adopted a more aggressive stance on trade, leading to the imposition of tariffs on several countries, notably China, Mexico, and Canada. These nations, in retaliation, introduced their own tariffs on American products. The agricultural sector, a cornerstone of the U.S. economy, found itself in the crosshairs of these retaliatory measures. Farmers across the nation began to feel the pinch. Marty Marr, a dedicated farmer, voiced his concerns, highlighting the immediate negative impact on markets for crops like corn, pork, and beef. The Illinois Department of Agriculture echoed these sentiments, noting that nearly 48% of U.S. agricultural exports were to the countries now imposing retaliatory tariffs. The fear was palpable. Would these nations seek new trade partners, leaving American farmers in the lurch? But what about goat meat? Often overshadowed by beef and pork, goat meat holds a niche yet significant place in the U.S. agricultural landscape. The U.S. isn't a major player in the global goat meat export market, but it does have its share of exports. In 2023, the U.S. exported approximately $894,000 worth of goat meat, with destinations including Antigua and Barbuda, Qatar, and the Bahamas. While these figures might seem modest, they represent livelihoods, traditions, and a segment of agriculture that could be vulnerable to the tremors of trade wars. And here's where it gets more interesting. Because although goat meat isn't America's biggest export, it's one of the fastest growing. The demand for goat meat is increasing both domestically and abroad, especially among immigrant communities from Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean, where goat meat is a traditional staple. In the U.S., this demand is outpacing supply, and imports are required to meet consumer needs. However, tariffs complicate this picture. When other countries raise their trade barriers against U.S. meat products, American goat producers could either lose access to profitable markets or be forced to sell at lower prices, hurting their bottom lines. Internationally, the dynamics of goat meat trade have been shifting. Australia, for instance, witnessed a staggering surge in its goat meat exports to China, increasing by over 4,000% within a year. By the end of October 2023, China accounted for 20% of Australia's goat meat exports, making it the second-largest market after the U.S. This surge was driven by China's insatiable demand for protein sources, with goat meat emerging as a preferred alternative to mutton. However, this rapid growth wasn't without challenges. Despite the increased demand, export prices plummeted to a 10-year low, underscoring the complexities of supply and demand in international trade. The question is, can the U.S. compete with countries like Australia and India, which have historically led the goat meat export industry? Australia benefits from vast open lands and low production costs, allowing it to produce goat meat cheaply and at scale. India, on the other hand, is home to one of the largest goat populations in the world and exports significant quantities of meat, especially to the Middle East. For U.S. goat meat producers, These global shifts present both challenges and opportunities. The retaliatory tariffs from countries like China and Mexico could dampen demand for American agricultural products, including goat meat. However, the evolving global appetite for diverse protein sources means that new markets could emerge. The Caribbean, for instance, has shown a consistent demand for goat meat. With the recent drop in prices, exports to this region could see an uptick. Additionally, trade negotiations with countries like the UK and India could open doors to new opportunities, provided the right protocols are established and tariffs are addressed. Another interesting possibility lies in Africa. While African countries are not yet major consumers of American goat meat, there is growing demand among urban populations for higher-quality meat products. The U.S. could explore bilateral agreements that make it easier to tap into these emerging markets, especially as many African economies expand and urbanize. Adapting to these changes requires strategic thinking and proactive measures. Diversifying export markets is paramount. By not relying solely on traditional partners, U.S. goat meat producers can mitigate risks associated with geopolitical tensions. Investing in quality assurance can also set American products apart in a competitive market. For instance, breeding programs aimed at improving goat meat quality can cater to discerning consumers in markets like the UK, where there's a demand for specific products like skin on goats. Technology and innovation also play a role. American farmers can adopt smarter farming practices like precision feeding, genetic selection, and disease management to boost the quality and quantity of goat meat. These enhancements not only make products more appealing to international buyers, but also improve sustainability, which is increasingly important to both consumers and regulators around the world. Moreover, building strong relationships with international partners can pave the way for smoother trade negotiations and market entry. By understanding the cultural and culinary preferences of target markets, producers can tailor their products to meet specific demands, enhancing their competitiveness. Domestic policy changes can also help. If the U.S. government provides better support through subsidies, infrastructure, and access to financing, small-scale goat farmers could scale up production and compete globally. Advocacy groups could push for trade deals that protect and promote lesser-known exports like goat meat, which often get overlooked in broader negotiations that focus on soy, corn, or beef. However, it's essential to acknowledge the broader context. Trade wars don't just impact exporters, they have a cascading effect on the entire supply chain. From farmers to processors to retailers, each link in the chain feels the repercussions of tariffs and trade barriers. For consumers, this could translate to higher prices or reduced availability of certain products. A weaker export market could also reduce farmers' revenues, leading to job losses and economic instability in rural communities. Finally, the long-term success of U.S. goat meat exports may hinge on the country's ability to rebuild trust and collaboration in international trade. If America is seen as an unpredictable or protectionist partner, other nations may choose to do business elsewhere. On the other hand, by focusing on fair deals, quality products, and transparent policies, the U.S. could not only recover lost ground, but thrive in the growing global market for goat meat. In conclusion, while the trade wars initiated during President Trump's administration have introduced uncertainties, they also underscore the importance of resilience and adaptability in the agricultural sector. For U.S. goat meat producers, the path forward involves navigating these challenges with strategic foresight, exploring new markets, and continuously innovating to meet the evolving demands of the global consumer. If you found this exploration insightful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analyses of global trade dynamics and their impact on everyday life. Your support helps us bring more content that matters to you.